And if we could just really keep that with us in our spiritual practice, that what we plant will bear fruit, that there is a cause we are putting in. Things don't occur randomly. There is a cause we're putting in every moment, and what we plant will bear fruit. The seeds that we plant, it come from intention. So I love this time of year where people start to really look at and reflect what are their intentions. Chaitana is the Pali word for intention, a mind state that exists in each moment that we have. So we're always making intentions. And so we're always planting seeds. Each moment we're planting a seed. And those seeds bear fruit. The Dhammapada says mind is the forerunner of all things. And that isn't kind of a theoretical, that's not poetry. They're pointing to a law in the universe. Mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is chief. They are all mind made. If we think, act, or speak with a wholesome mind, I'll talk about that word in a second. Unwholesome mind first. Suffering follows like the cart that follows the ox that pulls it. Mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is chief. They are all mind made. If we think, act, or speak from a wholesome mind, happiness follows like the shadow that never leaves. And so what is it that we really want in life? We share what we really want. We might call it something different: satisfaction, happiness, contentment, peace. We seek it in so many different ways. The Buddhist path pointed out the way to live in line with reality so that we wisely bring about happiness, peace, freedom, that it isn't random. There's something that we can do about it. We seek for that happiness in things that can't provide it. The mind is constantly looking for things to be pleasant. The Buddha would often refer to sensual pleasure. We shouldn't think of like pleasure as good or bad, but it has a certain nature, sensual pleasure. There's other kinds of pleasure. There's bliss of spiritual pleasure. The Buddha said that, and I won't say the Buddha said that, you will notice in your experience that pleasure comes with or without happiness, but happiness always comes from with pleasure. So we're seeking a deeper kind of happiness, but we can seek for things that are very fleeting. So sensual pleasure is very fleeting. I gave this example. I've given it a lot. So those of you that come to my classes regularly have heard me say this before, but it's the best example of what pleasure is. Because I was examining it, and it was the first time in my life, and I was probably 40 something years old when I really looked at what pleasure is. I was on a retreat, and for those of you that haven't been on retreat, you go through intensive, meditation, present moment. The mind gets very quiet and subtle. And they served a fruit tart on the retreat. And in the line for getting the fruit tart, I was like, oh, fruit tart. And then whatever, got the fruit tart. And so I was very mindful and present. And I took the first bite, and it was like, gone, like a firework, that quickly. That's how long the pleasure lasted. Next bite. Okay, go for more, go for more. And it was like, already not as pleasurable. Second bite. Is that good? Is that bad? Is that right? Is that wrong? It's reality. It's the nature of sensual pleasure. It doesn't satisfy because it changes, because it's impermanent. And so we put our heart on something like that, a person to provide us pleasure, a job to provide us pleasure, and we do. we will meet with disappointment. It can't provide that. So pleasure is a thing in life. We will experience it. May you experience lots of it. But it will come and it will go. And so the Buddha said there's something deeper than that. There's a happiness in the face of pleasure and in the face of pain that is inevitable. Pain is the same. We can go through great lengths to avoid it. Pain is the same. It comes and it goes. So we don't measure our life in terms of that anymore. But as we develop this happiness, this inner happiness, we will see there's more pleasant experiences that we have too. But we're not doing it just for that purpose. So mind is the forerunner of all things. With mindfulness, we become aware of our intentions, and so aware of the seeds that we're planting. And we are not victim to the mind that 80% of the time goes negative. Negative meaning to these afflictive places. Afflictions is translation of a word called kilesas, and the human mind is filled with kilesas. Another word for that is defilement. I never liked that word when I was, now I love it now. Like, that is exactly what happens. The mind is naturally luminous. We have a natural, bright, shining, luminous heart mind. And it is because of visiting afflictions, defilements, that we suffer. And we have to relate to the negative parts of the mind like that, like it's not you. Of course it isn't you. You wouldn't choose to be jealous, would you? Who would here be like, I want to feel jealous. That'd be great. I want to feel lonely or anger or rage or whatever, all of those painful feelings and emotions. No, we wouldn't choose that. They come. The Buddha said to relate to all things, this is not me, this is not myself, this I am not, particularly the afflictions, you should relate to it in that way. We call it Mara as a visitor. And the more you look inside your mind, the more Lisa, who I was teaching a retreat with this week, and I love, she said, you start to break the spell. You start to see the mind is crazy. It says all kinds of crazy things and does all kinds of self-hurting things. Like it's trying to, like there's something in there that's trying to hurt me. And I think it's best to relate to yourself in that way, honestly, as long as it doesn't bring up fear. But from a distant place, like there's alien beings that are putting thoughts in your mind to and what, because we have the power. What is the power? It's mindfulness. The Buddha would say, Mara, I see you. He's just seeing, mindful. Mara wants to be seen, and then there's no more power. We sustain the scene of the negative side of the mind that is just being destructive towards ourselves. And then it can't. So mindfulness is called a bala, one of the five balas, power. It's a mental power. It's a strength. And how is any strength developed? Through effort and intention, right? Through doing it a lot. Things do not get developed without effort, without intention. So we want to be mindful a lot because that will become more powerful in your mind than the negativity. Sadhu Pandita, who was a teacher, demanded his students become awake. He would do nothing less for you. He did not try to please you. I was on a retreat with him one time, and I went in and reported to him, and I was crying. And I was like, my mind and like all the things, and it's awful, and me and and he said, what makes you so special? And I did not like that. But later on, I heard him. It was much later on. It was in another retreat. And I saw the mind. It's not me. This is just human. I'm not a problem here. It's not special. It's not different. The human condition. So he really demanded that you come to the level, and he would talk about overcoming the defilements of mind. Some people don't like that language, and if you don't, throw it away. It's okay. But the point is, the mind can become stronger than the things that are trying to hurt us in our mind. And mindfulness is one of the powers. Concentration is another. Faith is another. Energy is another. The energy burns away the destructive states of mind. And wisdom is another. These are all strengths which, with yoniso manasikara, wise attention, we can grow. With our attention, things grow. So we want to grow these powerful forces in our mind to overcome the negativity, and then you will be happy, happier anyways. Little by little, we let go of the negative tendencies of mind, and it is the path upward. And I just kept seeing that as the truth for myself. The more I practiced, the more uplifted I became, the more powerful the mind becomes, the more clarity happens. It's there, it's a refuge. I leave it sometimes, I abandon it sometimes, and it's always there for me when I come back for it. It never leaves. It never judges me. It never says, "Where have you been?" I've been here this whole time. You've been out like doing other things, trying to find happiness with food and people and whatever. No, it's just always there. So it's a refuge for all of us. The community is a refuge. The practice is a refuge. And it is always there, and it will always bring benefit. Have you experienced practice bringing you benefit? It doesn't stop doing that. What else in life is like that? Not very many things, right? So may we, in this new year, devote a lot of our energy and effort to practice together. May we bring more peace in this world. May the world become more peaceful, more kind, more ethical. Live by non-harming. In a community, it will strengthen us as we do that together. And as we all know, it's so needed in the world. So I always do set little intentions, not just in the new year, but all along in my practice. I will line up with what part of practice do I want to focus on? What will balance me? What am I missing now? Some refinement in my character a little bit. My son and I, who's 20, and I'm happy he's doing this with me, working on not speaking about other people in a more refined way. Working on speech that is, I read something that said, speak only words that are treasures. I don't do that. I do that, but I do more than that. So. Some words are not so treasured. So that inspired me a lot. So, I want to do that. And what for? Not to, not because there's an authority that says we should, but because that also leads to clarity, leads to lightness, leads to happiness. The more ethical we are in the world, they don't study it. They've done all the studies for mindfulness. Science is lining up with what the Buddhas have known for a long time. But there hasn't been any studies on sila, the taking of the precepts in your actions in the world and becoming more conscientious that way. If they did, they would draw a very clear line of cause and effect to a decrease in stress. The more we don't lie, how much lying creates stress, how much being harmful with our sexual energy creates stress, stealing creates stress, and then refining our speech in so many ways. Gossip. Have you had that feeling ever? Like blah, 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 you talked, and then afterwards you're kind of sick. Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, okay, yeah. So the refraining from that, the Buddha said, we have the gift of remorselessness, which to me never seemed like a big deal. I don't feel remorse really. Well, I didn't think I did, but remorse manifests as anxiety, a little kind of like yucky feeling. And so that comes from causes that we're putting in. So there's causes that we can put in. So whatever it is for you in this year, they're the paramis. We can work on, focus on being of service more, generosity more, loving kindness, growing compassion, self-kindness will not hurt you ever. All of us can do with more of that. So, yeah, do set intentions. And then tomorrow, Juan sent me a cartoon with the bins, the trash can, the resolutions, like next day they're gone. They're in the trash bin. But that's because we have to reset our intentions all the time, and we reset them. We remember. Sitting together in practice, we do that. Taking the precepts, we do that. We're remembering what our intentions are. So it's nice at this time of the year, and then we'll continue. Reset them tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And then we do have this neuroplasticity. We aren't stuck with any kind of one way of being. With intention and care and mindfulness, we can change and become the kind of people that we really want to be. Yeah. So I'll open to thoughts or questions, or if you want to share any intention that you would like to work with, your spiritual intention, you can do that too. Thank you for your practice, everybody. It's nice to sit with you all. I only belched once. And anybody online can ask a question too. I'll be able to call on you if you're online. Who's there? Is that you, Sam Kim? Oh, hello. Nice to see you. Happy New Year. All the way in New York City, are you? Oh, good to see you. That you, Laura? Happy New Year. Go ahead, Heidi. We'll wait for Jasmine to bring the microphone.
I don't have much to say, but I think wise speech is always an important, a good intention to make. So I just want to say it out loud.
To work on that, you'd like to make that intention. Good. We'll do it together. So if you see me, Heidi. Exactly. Yeah, why is it so hard? It is hard. It is hard for everybody. It's always the place that people say. And somebody shared with us on the retreat something that I think is very real for a lot of people, that he has an intention to not complain, not criticize, and not compare. And for 2 years, he's had that intention, and he said he's still not really doing it. But it's just the way that is. But if you keep intending and keep intending, you got to remember and then keep intending and not give up. Like, oh, forget it, I didn't do it, so never mind. I keep setting the intention, and then we will start to remember. And sometimes it's asking, okay, what support do I need? What conditions am I putting myself in that make me, could be certain, and we can give ourselves the kind of support, community, practice that helps us. Yeah.
Hey, Melissa, thanks
Hi.
for the talk.
Yeah.
I think I was going to ask, is there any like formal procedure to setting an intention, particularly in Buddhism? Is there any writing that you do, or do you do it every morning, or with meditation, without meditation?
I think it's nice to write things down, because then that can help you to remember and refer to. There's nothing formal. There's different ways that you can get creative. Again, what will help support you to remember? And writing will certainly help to like kind of solidify, no, I'm really working on this right now. Something that you meet with each day. Of course, practicing every day, meditating every day, because that's our check-in where we start to listen deeper into the heart, and all of those real desires for what we have, what we really want, start to come out in our practice time, and then we can direct the course of the mind in a way that we want to. Because if we don't direct it, if we aren't intentional about our intentions, then we will be directed by Mara and by outside influences and by life. So we want to direct our own mind. So come in aware of oneself, listen deeply, and then set those intentions. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Okay. Okay, Samantha online, go ahead.
Hi, Happy New Year. Thank you for this talk. I'm so grateful to go into the new year with insight. And Alexis, if you're there, you hear me. Hi, Happy New Year. I just wanted to share a couple things that I really want to, and that I intend to do this year. I think one was the practice of letting go. That I can't pronounce, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but Thich Nhat Hanh had said, practice letting go every 15 minutes. And I thought it was really helpful because when I actually do remember to do that, it's funny to think of what I was holding on to, or what I can tend to hold on to throughout a day. And then you even mentioned this in the meditation. We are already everything that we want to become. I think sometimes I see a thought or an action reaching for a safety that I already have. And I think I just want to see more of that clarity and wisdom this year.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for sharing that out loud. I think you'll find that helpful. That's wonderful. Thank you. Okay, and then we'll go to the other person online. Okay.
Yeah. Hi. Nice to sit with you for the first time. I just thought of something that, like a slight reframe on all that forgetfulness that's so utterly human, as you put it. I was with my boyfriend today, who's very new to meditating, and he noticed and spoke aloud how he caused his suffering, and I just was so happy. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's so brilliant that you're aware of your own causality. You know what I mean? And isn't it so cool that you can choose your state? So I just am putting like a little high five there to all of that, all the times we're hijacked by our minds and all the times we forget and don't beat ourselves up, and just notice like, oh, yeah, I get to choose like where I want to live, in which state. And that does not feel good. And even today, I started the morning with a beautiful meditation with my Indian guru. But then I said something really snippy to my sister about, like our father and her daughter who was staying with me. And it was like, it just felt so unpleasant afterwards. Like, wow, I really indulged that, like having like just shitty food, So it is nice to sort of feel it and go, yeah, I have a choice here. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's so illuminating and wonderful when that happens and we see, oh, I am causing this. We don't always know it. Yeah, we certainly believe regularly that it's something outside of ourselves, which is where we start to feel very powerless. And the I that am causing it, hopefully can, with time and practice, not come with a whole lot of blame and shame, because those two things do not help our practice, but with a sense of empowerment, because it's arising within me, because there's an antidote to it, there's something that I can do about it. We can't fix the world, but we can work with this as a reaction, and somebody outside of ourselves isn't causing our reactions. That's great. Yeah. Let me get the online person and then we'll come to you, Heather. What's the name, Alexis? Thank you. Go ahead, Deborah.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Hi, Alexis. I wanted to say hello to you as well. I know you from USC. I first of all want to thank you. I've been doing meditation on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve with InsightLA since 2011, and it really does set my year. And heartfelt thank you for bringing us together as a community to do this. So that was my first thought. And I wanted to mention too, as you're talking about the importance of intention, and thank you. I love the quote, mind is a forerunner of all things. Thank you for that wisdom and just to give us those just words to hold on to and to remind us. And as there was an earlier question about intention, I'm from the Christian tradition and went to a Jesuit university. And the Ignatian exercises have this idea that every morning when you meditate, you set your intention for the day. And that at noon, I never realized this growing up, but at noon there is a church bell that rings somewhere. And that is, according to Ignatian tradition, you stop and say, where am I with my intention? How has the day changed it? And how do I move forward so that my intentions for the remainder of the day are in line with what I hope to achieve or accomplish? So I just think it's interesting that to have that intention and then stop midday to kind of reassess where we are. And I just wanted to share that tradition from a priest that I studied with years ago. So thank you, everyone. And it's just a pleasure to see you and just grateful to be part of this community.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
Heather raised her hand, so I.
Yeah, Heather. This will be the last question and then we'll do some.
I just wanted to thank you so much for leading today, and thank you to everybody that's here and having this home. But I just was going to share about, we're constantly changing, and that's something that we all know for sure, but is not always in the forefront. And I had a neurological condition arise from a virus over the last several years. And I had an intense change that happened in my personality. So I come from 25 years of deep practice and long retreat. And yet this year, what I'm practicing with is a quality that I never struggled with before, which is patience. I found after coming from the disorientation of sort of all of a sudden arising as a completely different emanation of myself, coming out of that fog, the disorientation, using practice to pinpoint the spiritual quality that can care for the obscurations and the reactivity that's arising now that I'm different. So I just wanted to say, I'm happy for this community and grateful to have a place to come home. So thank you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Heather.
Good to see
Yeah.
you.
Okay, let's thank you everybody for sharing. Let's do some metta practice. And then for those of you that are in person, we have tea, we have drinks and cookies and things. So these kind of drinks. It is wonderful to see when we slow down the place in the mind where choice happens. In regular awareness, it's hard to see that. With a concentrated mind, we see the choice to move towards fear or to move towards love. To move towards self-criticism or move towards self-compassion. To move towards energy or to move towards dullness. We can move our attention towards thoughts of loving kindness, which uplift the mind and bring down the barriers of the heart. Wisely attending to thoughts of loving kindness rather than criticism, rather than judgment. Extending those thoughts to ourselves first. May I be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful. Or whatever words resonate with you. May I be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful. May everyone in this community be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful. Just as I wish to be happy and free from suffering, so do all other beings. Oh, extending those thoughts to them, to us. May we be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful. And then extending those thoughts out to all beings, excluding no one, to the north, south, east, west, above, and below. May all beings everywhere be safe, healthy, happy, and peaceful.